Palantir just delivered one of those earnings reports that make the bulls pound the table and bears reach for the smelling salts. The company said first quarter revenue climbed to $1.63 billion, up 85% year-over-year, while adjusted EPS came in at $0.33 versus the expected $0.28. It also lifted full year 2026 revenue guidance to $7.650 billion to $7.662 billion, and the stock was still trading around 133.79 as of May 6, 2026. In other words, the business looked spectacular, and the stock still acted like it had just had bad news from the principal's office. This is central Palantir paradox in one sentence. The operating business is printing like it had a motivational podcast while the stock is constantly asking, yes, but is this already priced like it had discovered fire, electricity, and artificial intelligence all at once? That tension is why Palantir is never a quick stock or a quiet stock. It is either the future of enterprise software or a valuation stress test with a ticker symbol. Sometimes, honestly, it feels like both before lunch. Now the big bit, why everyone made such a fuss. The headline number was not just good, it was loud. Palantir's Q1 revenue marked its fastest growth rate since the company went public, and the company's US business was the engine. US revenue rose 104%, with US government revenue climbing 84%, and US commercial revenue surging 133%. And that is the kind of quarter that makes investors sit up straighter, suddenly become experts in revenue acceleration, and begin saying phrases like operating leverage with suspicious confidence. The most important thing here is not just that Palantir grew in the place that matters most for the bull case. The US commercial market, with that 133% jump, says companies are not just dabbling in Palantir, they are actively buying into the platform. This is a big deal because commercial adoption is the difference between being a niche government wonderkind and being a software giant with a broader runway. One customer is a pilot, and 100 customers is a business model. Now let's talk about the rule of 40, because this is where the Palantir story starts feeling almost cartoonish. The company's Q1 2026 adjusted operating margin was 60% and revenue growth was 85%, which adds up to 145% rule of 40 score. That is not good. That is the spreadsheet accidentally hit lightning bolt territory. In software, the rule of 40 is a shorthand for balancing growth and profitability. And Palantir's results say it is doing both at an extreme level. Think of it like a school project where everyone expects you to either turn in a beautiful poster or get the science right, and you somehow show up with both laminated, framed, and already graded by the teacher. Growth like this usually comes with ugly margins. Margins like this usually come with slower growth. Palantir is making the market stare at a company that is doing both at once, which is exactly why the debate around the stock gets so heated so fast. So why investors cheered the business but still dumped the stock? This is where the stock market becomes the stock market. Even with the beat, the rise, and the margin expansion, Palantir shares still fell after the report. Barron's reported the stock dropped 6.9% to 135.91 despite this strong quarter, and Reuters noted shares slipped after hours even as the company raised guidance. That is not a verdict on the business. It is a reminder that the market does not only reward excellence, sometimes it penalizes excellence that arrives wearing an outrageously expensive suit. Why the hesitation? Because the market had already priced Palantir like a company that should keep sprinting forever without ever tripling over a shoelace. When a stock is valued for perfection, even a masterpiece can be treated like a mere nice try. That is the painful part for holders. The company can put up fireworks and the stock can still sag if investors decide the fireworks were already baked into the price of admission. Now looking at the valuation problem, great business price multiple. The valuation debate is not settled. At the current price and market cap, Palantir is worth about $343.96 billion, with a PE ratio around 150.3 based on the live quote data. Barron's also noted that the stock trades at eye-watering forward valuation levels, which is why a lot of investors reacted more to the price than to the quarter. In plain English, the company is rich in growth and the stock is rich in expectations. Those are not always the same thing. This is why people keep trying and talking about multiple compression. If the business grows fast enough, the market can justify worrying valuation. If the growth slows even a little, the multiple can come down faster than a comedy actor on a banana peel. That does not mean the market and the company is broken. It means the stock may need to keep outrunning gravity just to stand still. Now the bear case still has a face. A lot of caution around Palantir has been amplified by the very public bearish stance of Michael Burry, who Reuters reported has taken a bearish position against Palantir. That matters because Burry is not some random internet commentator typing from a basement at 2 a.m. He is a widely followed contrarian investor, and when he leans on a name like Palantir, the debate gets louder instantly. The irony almost is perfect. The company posts a monster quarter, and one of the most famous bears in modern market history still looms over the stock like a thundercloud with a resume. That does not automatically make the bear right. It does mean there is a very visible counterweight to the bull case, and that counterweight is asking a hard question. How much perfection can the company really sustain before valuation starts doing more work than the business itself? Now, why the bull case still feels very real. Now, before we reach here, please, if you're benefiting from the video, I request you to like, share, and also subscribe. And also, if you want more like this, please comment the word more so that I know. Now, here is where the story gets interesting. The bull case is not just AI is hot or that this stock is cool on social media. Palantir has shown it can convert hype into actual revenue, especially in the US commercial and government markets. The company said net dollar retention was 150% in Q1 2026, which is a very strong sign that existing customers are spending more over time. That is the kind of metric that says customers are not merely trying the product, they are deepening the relationship. Net dollar retention above 150% is like having regular customers who do not just buy the drink once. They come back with 2 friends, order the large size, add dessert, and somehow convince the restaurant to rearrange the menu. It tells you expansion is happening inside the customer base, not just through a constant treadmill of new logos. A company like Palantir, that is a huge signal because recurring expansion revenue is often what turns a strong software business into a compounding machine. Now, coming on the side of defense, enterprise AI, and the way we actually need this argument, Palantir's appeal is that it sits in 2 huge lanes at once. Defense and enterprise AI. Reuters reported that the company's US government demand remained very strong and that its Maven AI system is expected to become a program of record for the Pentagon, giving the platform more durable long-term relevance in the US military ecosystem. Also in the commercial world, the company is also positioning itself as a serious AI operating layer, not just a flashy demo box. So this combination matters. A lot of AI names are still selling excitement. Palantir is increasingly selling workflow, mission-critical deployment, and please do not break this system at 3 a.m. reliability. That is why bulls see a moat. Once a company's data, processes, and decisions are embedded into a Palantir workflow, ripping it out can feel like trying to remodel a house while everyone is still living inside it. In software, switching costs are not just technical, they are emotional, bureaucratic, and occasionally legendary. Now, could revenue really double by 2027? This is where excitement starts to sound like a dare. Some investors are now talking about Palantir's potential doubling revenue by 2027 if customer expansion keeps compounding and US business keeps scaling. This is not company guidance, it is an extrapolation from the current growth trend and should be treated as such. But the reason that narrative exists is simple. When a company is already growing at this speed, a 2-year doubling scenario stops sounding absurd and starts sounding like a spreadsheet exercise with a very sharp pencil. So the caution, of course, is that high growth is not a law of nature. It is a phase, and phases can cool. Palantir's current momentum is real, but investors still have to ask whether this is the beginning of a much larger compounding story or the peak of a very enthusiastic sprint. In other words, can the company keep stacking new customers, expanding existing accounts, and maintaining its execution rhythm long enough to make the long-range bull math work? This is the real question, and it is a very expensive one. Now, August flips bullish, and City turns the volume up. Wall Street is not exactly speaking with one voice, but the newer calls have been constructive. August upgraded Palantir to buy from hold with a 190 price target, and City maintained buy while lifting its target to 225 from 210. The message there is clear. At least some analysts view the post-earnings weakness as a sentiment issue rather than a fundamental collapse. The business looked better, not worse. The stock simply did not get the memo. The split between 190 and 225 is actually a very useful snapshot of the debate. It says the bulls still see meaningful upside, but they are not all using the same ruler. One camp sees the pullback as a chance to buy quality on sale. Another camp thinks the stock still has to earn its keep because even great companies can overextend themselves on valuation. So yes, both sides are bullish. They just disagree on how much of the future has already been vacuum packed into the current price. So is 130 a floor or just a layover? At around 133.79, Palantir is basically hovering in the neighborhood of the 130 question. Is that a floor or just a rest stop on the way to another round of multiple compression? That is the part investors keep arguing about because the stock is expensive enough that every dip invites a new argument about whether it is a bargain or a trap. Market watchers have already framed 130 as possible floor, but that is a judgment call and not a law of physics. So the answer hinges on whether operating leverage can overrun multiple compression. That phrase sounds like something a hedge fund manager would say while staring dramatically at a window, but it is actually the heart of the whole story. If revenue keeps rising fast, margins stay strong, and customer expansion keeps going, then the market may eventually stop punishing Palantir for being expensive. If growth cools, the valuation can compress faster than a folding chair at a family reunion. Same company, very different stock outcomes. Remember that God loves you, my final word, and wants to have a close relationship with you. If you've loved the analysis, please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, and may God bless you.